Owls don't have eyeballs. I don't mean that as a figure of speech. I mean that literally, if you were to look inside an owl's skull right now, you would not find two spherical eyeballs sitting in their sockets the way yours do. What you would find is something far stranger. Something that explains why owls see in near total darkness, why they can spot a mouse moving through grass from half a mile away, under nothing but starlight, and why, despite being one of the most visually acute hunters on the planet, an owl cannot move its eyes at all. My name is Kendra, and this is Owl Order. And in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to take you inside the anatomy of an owl's eye, because once you understand what's actually in there, you will never look at an owl the same way again. Director land harder. So what does an owl actually have instead of eyeballs? They have eye tubes, elongated cylindrical structures that extend deep into the skull, more like a telescope than an eye. And unlike your eyes, which sit loosely in your orbital sockets and can rotate in almost every direction, an owl's eye tubes are locked rigidly in place by bony rings called sclerotic rings. They cannot move, not even slightly. An owl looks straight ahead, and that is the only direction it can look forever. Now that sounds like a major disadvantage. And it would be if the owl hadn't evolved something extraordinary to compensate. But we'll get to that in a moment. First, let's understand why the tube shape matters so much. Your eye is roughly 24 millimeters across. A great horned owl's eye is almost exactly the same size, but that owl weighs just 1.4 kilograms. Your eyes account for roughly 0.0003% of your body weight. An owl's eyes can account for up to 5% of its entire body weight. To put that in perspective, if your eyes were proportionally the same size as an owl's, they would be roughly the size of grapefruits. And the reason they need to be that large comes down to one thing: light. The tube shape allows the owl to have a much larger lens and a much larger retina than any spherical eye of the same external size could provide. More lens means more light gathered. More retina means more photoreceptors, more cells dedicated to converting that light into vision. And those photoreceptors are where it gets truly extraordinary. An owl's retina is packed almost entirely with rod cells, the type of photoreceptor responsible for detecting light and motion in low-light conditions. Some owl species have up to 56,000 rod cells per square millimeter in their retinas. Humans have roughly 200,000 rod cells in the entire eye. The result? Owls can detect prey in light conditions approximately 100 times dimmer than the minimum light humans need to see anything at all. The northern hawk owl has been documented detecting a vole moving against snow from a distance of half a mile under starlight alone. Director note: the grapefruit comparison and the 100 times dimmer stat are your two most shareable moments in this section. Pause slightly after each one. Let the number land before moving on. If you have access to owl skull footage or diagrams, this is where you use them. These visuals can be sourced from Creative Commons or illustrated simply. But here's the problem evolution had to solve. If your eyes are locked tubes that cannot move, how do you track a mouse running across the ground below you? How do you check if something is approaching from behind? How do you scan an entire forest without moving your body and alerting every piece of prey within earshot? The answer is one of the most remarkable anatomical solutions in the animal kingdom. Owls have 14 cervical vertebrae in their necks. Humans have 7. That additional bone structure, combined with a blood pooling system in their arteries, a biological reservoir that stores blood and delivers it to the brain when normal circulation is briefly cut off during extreme rotation, allows an owl to turn its head 270 degrees in either direction. Not 360 degrees, as is commonly claimed, but 270, which means an owl sitting completely still, facing forward, can see almost entirely behind itself without moving its body a single centimeter. Think about what that means for a moment. The owl's inability to move its eyes at all, what sounds like a fundamental flaw, is actually what drove the evolution of one of the most extraordinary necks in nature. The constraint created the adaptation, and the eyes themselves have one further advantage they haven't used, yet: binocular vision. Because the tube eyes face directly forward like yours do, and like most predators' eyes do, there is a 70-degree overlap zone where both eyes see the same thing simultaneously. This binocular overlap is what creates precise depth perception. The brain receives two slightly different images and calculates the exact distance to a target by comparing the difference between them. An owl diving at a mouse in complete darkness is making a continuous series of real-time distance calculations, updating its trajectory every fraction of a second using eyes it cannot move, in light that would leave you completely blind. Director note: the constraint created the adaptation is a philosophical observation worth pausing on. It's the kind of line that generates comments. Encourage pause and reflection in your delivery rather than rushing through it. You've probably seen an owl do something strange on camera, that distinctive bobbing and weaving of the head, tilting side to side, moving forward and back. It looks almost comedic. It's not. Because the eyes are fixed tubes and cannot adjust their position the way your eyes can, the owl uses head movement to build a three-dimensional map of what it's seeing. By shifting its head slightly in different directions, a behavior called parallax shifting the owl is actively triangulating depth information in real time. The mouse on the ground that was at one distance a moment ago is now being recalculated from a slightly different angle. The owl is essentially doing with its neck what your eyes do unconsciously every second of every day. And then there are the eyelids. Owls have three of them. The upper and lower eyelids work much like yours, they close when the owl sleeps or blinks. But there is a third eyelid called the nictitating membrane, a semi-transparent layer that sweeps diagonally across the eye from the inside corner, like a windscreen wiper. It cleans the surface of the eye and protects it during a strike when the owl's talons are making contact with prey. That nictitating membrane snaps shut to shield the eyes from anything that might fight back. An owl diving at full speed onto a mouse that is about to scratch or bite closes its eyes at the precise moment of impact. It is hunting by the auditory map it built in the final half second before contact. Director note: the nictitating membrane closing at the moment of impact is your most dramatic single fact in this section. Deliver: it is hunting by the auditory map it built in the final half second before contact, slowly and clearly. This is a short sentence with enormous implications. Give it room. So let's put this all together and ask the question the science is really pointing toward. What does it actually feel like to be an owl seeing the world? You have tube eyes fixed, immovable, pointed forward. Your field of view is 110 degrees total, with a 70-degree zone of crisp binocular precision at the center. When you see in light so dim it approaches the theoretical limit of what physics allows, because your retina is so densely packed with light-sensitive cells that it can detect individual photons arriving at a rate no human eye could register. You don't experience peripheral vision the way we do. Your world is a narrow, extraordinarily sharp tunnel of clarity, everything within that forward arc rendered in extreme detail, and almost nothing beyond it. To see what is beside you or behind you, you turn your head. You are always turning your head. You are continuously scanning, continuously calculating, continuously building and updating a three-dimensional model of the space around you. And when you find your mouse 400 meters away, moving through grass in near total darkness, you don't chase it. You wait. You let it move. And with every movement, your fixed tube eyes feed your brain more parallax data, more precise distance calculation. You are not hunting yet, you are computing. And when the calculation is complete, you drop. Most of us have seen an owl on a branch that's still, calm, almost serene presence, and assumed it was simply sitting there, watching, resting. But now you know that what you were actually looking at was one of the most sophisticated optical systems in the natural world, running a continuous targeting algorithm, building a three-dimensional model of everything within 110 degrees of its gaze, using eyes it cannot move, in light you cannot see inside a skull that can rotate 270 degrees to compensate for all of it. That is what an owl is. If you want to go deeper next video, I'm going into the owl's other extraordinary sense. The one that lets it hunt in complete, absolute darkness with no light at all. Not dim light. Zero light. And the anatomy behind it is, if anything, even stranger than the eyes. Subscribe to Owl Order so you don't miss it. And if this changed how you think about owls, drop a comment below. Tell me what surprised you most. I read every single one. I'll see you next week.